Welcome to Dead by Daylight Bootcamp, where you hop into a voice chat with myself in a kill your friends environment so that you can practice the things that you're not able to practice or are too stressed to practice out there. And today we are working with a survivor who is unsure how to infer information that isn't directly in front of them. Where is the killer? Who's going down? What decisions do I need to be making?
You can call me drumming if you want.
Drumming, easy, got you. Okay, so you want to practice Survivor tonight. What in the realm of Survivor, is there a particular type of killer that is difficult to go against, or?
Basically, I just want to work on, like, decision-making whilst in chases. I don't really mind who I play against. I think like that's just the general thing is just the decision-making and knowing when to, like, leave loops and when to stay on loops.
How confident do you feel? Should it be a killer that's like, should they go pretty hard and try to put you through your paces, or?
Honestly, I don't mind how they play. Like, I do a lot of solo queuing, so I face a lot of like different players on different levels. So, decent.
Ayo, not bad at all. All right. Good job kind of panning around, yeah. Sprint burst, there you go. Ooh, he's taking you for first chase, too. Alright. Okay, first hit from Oni. My first kind of immediate thought is, I think there are some times, especially when you're like in chase, that you'll maybe need to adjust to panning your camera back a little bit more, just so you, you know, at the bus, it's like, it looked like you were good, but then he was like right there, so it's like maybe you could have played around the pallet more had you panned around a bit, but.
Okay, so good.
But that's okay. It not the end of the world. I mean, you're doing pretty all right.
Thank you, great.
99 the sprint burst. Oh, it's
you saw me.
It's a little dicey. Alright, now you may want to. That's a dicey unhook. I wouldn't heal out here in the open against an Oni.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because if he comes back, he could down both of you very quickly. So I'd be.
Oh yeah, that's an infectious throw as well.
It's a rough start. One person on your team should be on a gen, so that's kind of the hope here.
Okay, cool.
Okay. He kicked the gen, it looks like.
Oh.
He expects someone to hide, so that's not too bad. You might be panning that camera because you know he's behind you, right? So he's
waiting my sprint burst.
Yeah. Be sure to check behind you here, because we know he's an ability. So you wanna know, like, oh, is he coming at me, or? There you go.
Yeah.
Not too bad. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, that camera pan. Honestly.
Oh wow,
that's good down.
He's gonna know I'm in, so I'm gonna probably go in a different direction.
Yeah. Yeah, just want to be sure that you're keeping your head on a swivel, especially with Oni, but like you'll see that with Blight or like with any killers, like even if you're not necessarily being chased, you want to kind of always know where the direction of the killer could come from, you know? Somebody should be able to get that, so it's good gen time. Really, in this situation, you're the guy to handle this gen. It's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but you have sprint burst, and that's going to be able to get you 2 items, you know, so good pick. This is kind of the more dull part, but I think it's important.
Yeah, like it's like a typical build I sort of use, like the infinite sort of exhaustion perk build.
You have to be careful with builds like this, because sometimes if you get really used to just using sprint burst. Oop. The camera pan, yeah. That was really good on the Oni's part.
Alright. I'm not gonna lie, I kind of relied on my spine shield.
Yep. I was gonna say, you get too used to spine chill, you get too used to sprint burst, and then suddenly you're like, why can't I loop very well? It happens. It happens. You get used to certain things. But yeah, even just always gotta kind of be panning. You're definitely not doing bad or anything like that. Let's see. One gen though, it's a tough spot. We'll need definitely some gen work from the team.
Sure, we could go back on that gen actually, because might be something obvious and might do. So gen's a gen, I guess.
Yeah. Well, you know, there's you two here, and then there's a Felix on the gen by the hill over there on your left. So
okay.
The hope is that, you know, you guys should be able to kind of crank some of these out a little bit. Okay, Felix is still on a gen, so.
Okay. So everyone's been hooked. Sleep one. Okay.
Good job. Now, this is something Fixated's a great perk. Don't walk everywhere just to save the sprint burst. You know what I mean? If you got a place to go, sprint burst is gonna help you get there. It's still getting some good value, you know. Fixated's really good if you're trying to like, you know, just get that last little bit back. You know what I mean? All right, so he's in power, so you definitely want to. He's probably coming from that hook area or left.
Okay.
You know, because that's the last place we know he was. Sounds like he's in chase though, so you should be good to
go. So I know there's another gen in that sort of roughly area there.
Yep. So you guys may have caught yourself in a spot where you've done most of the gens on this side of the map. You'll need to be really careful not to 3-gen, right?
Oh, he's over there, so I want to go over there. Range then.
Now be sure you're panning your camera over. There you go. You always want to know, like, is he gonna slug and then come for me, or what? You know, what's happening next? So just gathering as much info as you kind of can.
Gonna friendly drop on the gen in case it doesn't.
Yes, Tinker actually sounds like his terror radius was gone for a second there. Maybe not.
Oh, I see my scratch marks. Yeah, it is.
Yep. You get one of these fun times.
Don't want to over there.
You might break off and go for the gen.
Leave me. I can go for the save, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good call. So that's phenomenal decision making. If nothing else, you guys get the double heal and you're back in it. So.
You can go for a double heal there.
You are really good at panning your camera. It's just more thinking about it more often.
Yeah, sometimes I forget.
Alright, he's got ability here, so. So yeah, this is the tough part of you guys. You guys have kind of done all the gens on one side, so now it's really stressful.
Yeah.
It's okay. This is the right call. So, see, that's why you want to know where he might, because he downed someone, but he's not letting them get up. I wouldn't go pick them up because they've only been down a few seconds. They haven't recovered fully, so you definitely don't want to go over there and group up. She's not on death hook, so you're chilling.
So chills somewhere. Oh, do you want to pick up? Use that.
There you go. That's the right play. Yeah, running to the Nancy is just a good way to give him a ton of free hits, more orbs. And then, yeah, you definitely.
He's gonna go pick up.
Yeah. Yeah, he's gonna go to the second slug, so you'll want to go to the hook. Yep.
Oh.
Do you want to be sure you're panning over?
Yep.
Yep, there you go. Always want to be sure he's not coming back because we could hear the terror radius, but God knows where, you know.
There's one in the building and then there's one just outside.
So main building's the safest one for you guys to go get to.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
You know, because the killer just has to play around that a little bit more, and there's only one entry point, right? You don't have to quite be looking.
Oh my god, I'm
sides.
just saving my sprint burst by a smidge.
Yeah. Yeah, Goldfish is doing a really good job on hooks here. Okay, Jill coming back. I guess still using that for the people.
There are no.
Okay, so he's close.
Sounds that way.
Oop, careful. There you go. Yeah, hop back on that gen if you can. If he's in chase, now he's coming back around. That window. There you go, good job. Hell yeah.
Trying to separate from everyone else because of that.
Yeah. That makes sense. Does he slug? He might be slugging, so you definitely be careful here. If he has nurses, which Onis sometimes run nurses call, you have to be.
Oh, okay. Didn't really think about his perks too much, only because of infectious fright.
So 2 people on Death Hook, they are just dead. Not a lot you're gonna be able to do here.
Bit risky.
You might be able to get the slug up though. But I think that's a good call.
I could probably take a hook actually. If we can get this person up.
Okay. Maybe they run off and heal each other. That's the hope anyway, right?
Yeah.
I
don't want to risk healing that pallet because I'll probably drop the pallet knowing me.
No worries. It's one of those things where, you know, you don't want to catch yourself healing too much, you know what I mean? So. He's coming back.
Probably go.
He'll probably go for the
take
injured
a hit.
person, unless you be sure you're panning, so you're not exactly sure where he's coming from. Yep. Yeah. Good hit.
Dude.
You're not on Death Hook, so.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, there wasn't anything safe here.
Yeah.
But taking the hit was like, that was a solid call, so. Okay. See where the rest of your team is here. If you want to pan around for us.
So the ones on you can go with the far one there.
Alright. So take a look around. Let's see where your teammates are.
One's behind, I think they were just healing.
Let's see.
I think Venus is just going to go straight for the gate, which is cool. Yeah. I think he's going after him.
Okay. Good on hook there.
And quickly heal if you want.
Okay. So that's a for the people heal. So you know the exit gate that's open.
Oh damn! You had 40 people.
Yeah.
Nice.
So.
Thank you, Joe.
That hook was broken, so 2 of you should make it out.
Ah, damn. Sorry, Ben.
Yeah. That was a good match from the Oni.
I definitely sort of agree with you about panning the camera. I think that gives me like an extra sort of lifeline next to spine shield, I guess. And I think I still need to sort of like work on maybe just deciding where to go with chases. I think that maybe comes with like map knowledge, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. So.
But
keep going.
But yeah, like I find like if I try and avoid the chases, I do a little bit better. But when it comes to the chases themselves, it's the area which I sort of get a little bit tangled with my thought process.
Yeah, I think you kind of nailed it on the head. I think there's a lot of good things. You're thinking really actively about what you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to figure out where people are, where the killer is. Like you're aware, and that's a big step one, and that's kind of the hardest part to doing any of this is you know, being aware and being kind of like a participant instead of just kind of winging it. I think, yeah, the first call out here would be sort of when you're kind of just chilling. It's kind of, you always need to be panning the camera and never be comfortable. And that's a really hard thing to do, but so this was a good idea of you seeing the killer and sprint bursting away. But then once you got on the straightaway here, you kind of just went straight and you never checked behind you. And I'd be willing to bet the killer actually like walked around this and then like kept going because they know there's a pallet here. They're going to try to play around that a little bit. But because you weren't checking behind you here, like you should kind of see a red stain by now. But because you're not looking behind you, you don't know if you could play the pallet or not. And so in this case, actually, we can kind of see based on like the red stain, he walks just kind of right through it. So you maybe could have thrown it. Alternatively, you could have like looped around the bus. So I think there's just a little bit of like always kind of keeping that camera pan, always being aware and you know, turning little areas like this into like you could loop circles around this outside to make this into something if you really wanted to. Not that I necessarily recommend it, but so there's some stuff like that. General decision making I don't think is like bad per se, but I think there are definitely some moments to be aware of, right? So you know, healing out in the open, under the hook against an Oni in their power. Be a little bit careful about these things, you know, because he could just run up and give you the bop and then, you know. But I think that's just something you sort of learn, you know. It's kind of like, you know, if Devour Hope is up and everybody's exposed, why heal? Because you're all going to go down in one hit anyway. So, you know, it's just one of those things where you just sort of rationalize the kind of like moment that you're in as a player. But the big thing I think it kind of just goes back to is checking to your left and right. You know, in this scenario, we knew that the Oni popped their ability and you were looking ahead of you to see where maybe a gen was, but you weren't, it almost seemed like you weren't exactly sure what direction the killer could come from. And that's something to be very aware of, is what direction could the killer come from? Because if you know that, then that's when you start to make a kind of a plan of like, well, if he's coming from this direction, then I go this direction and there's a pallet. And then you maybe don't have to panic and chases so much because you got that plan of attack a little bit. And we saw that a little bit closer to the end, and it sort of worked out a little bit to like right here. So as the Oni ran up, you were able to tank the hit, which is great. But we heard the terror radius getting louder, but we weren't really looking for where that could be coming from. And it kind of, you lucked out a little bit in that case, but in some scenarios, this is a moment where like your spine chill's gone off, terror radius is loud, the whole game's screaming at you to take a look around, and then the killer kind of walks up to you here. So just these little things about what I would suggest as like, just like I guess a piece of advice is like, just always, no matter what you're doing, ask yourself, where's the killer? And then just be looking to try to find evidence to figure that out. I think if you can do that, no matter where you are or what you're doing, I think you'll find that you're more successful in chases. You're, you know, paying more attention to where your survivor teammates are. And then you're not going to find yourself cut off by hillbillies or by blights rushing across the map or things like that, because you'll be able to kind of know where the killer is at all times. So yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But otherwise, I think you're like really on the track. You know, you're thinking very well about like, okay, well, I need to do a gen, and like this is so you understand like some of the objective beats that need to be happening. It's more or less just a general awareness of things that are outside of your direct field of view that I think might be throwing you off a little bit. If you can get a little bit better at understanding what's happening, even though you can't see it, I think you're going to be shooting for the stars at that point. If that makes any sense. I know it's like a
yeah.
So, but I think you did a really good job. And I am excited to see you in more chases. But I like I said, I think panning your camera and just being aware of where the killer is when they're not in your field of view, I think that's it. Once you do that, you're going to be able to run with any amount of knowledge.